and I'll get going. Okay, hooray, we are now recording, we're official.
Yes. You all pioneer. Thank Kim for leading us.
So yeah, welcome everyone, CSUs and California community colleges. We're really excited about launching. And I think, you know, the biggest thing is about taking our collective knowledge and experience and resources and leveraging that to help one another and collaborate and share a lot of the great things that are happening. And perhaps even reduce some of the reinventing of the wheel in places where we won't need to do that because of that collaboration. So thank you so much. So today, with this first launch, the topic is about migration. And so we'll be most of the time talking a little bit, hearing from campuses about their migration tips or lessons or different elements of that. And we have six campuses that are going to be sharing. And then at the end, we'll do, you know, some questions and whatnot as much as we can, the time will allow. And then I'd like to do an overview of the Common Interest Group community page. It's been a little bit of hiccups in terms of joining that group. And so I've been working with InStructure on trying to isolate what the problem is with some folks trying to join. So we'll get through that. And then if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about what some potential future topics might be for this group that would really benefit the collective. Okay. So I did have a poll that was set up, and I didn't get the graph here because I figured, why don't we just do it live? We didn't get a whole lot of responses, and I thought maybe there's so many people here, right here, and that we could just perhaps, I'll just launch it. So really, I'd like you to rank the top 5 reasons why your campus has moved or is moving or perhaps is considering or interested in Canvas. And so that's what the one question poll is. So I'm going to launch this, and you can select 5 of these, and then I'll show the results. So I'll let this roll for about a minute or so, and then we'll do it. Can everybody see the poll?
Yes.
Okay. No, it takes a little bit to get going. So there it is, and I'll just kind of let it sit until we get some people.
Yeah, interesting. If you select order, maybe you can put that in the chat.
Okay. It looks like it's kind of slowed down. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Does anybody need a little bit more time? Oh, yeah, other could be UDL or accessibility. Good one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. Can everybody see those results?
Yes.
Okay, so we can kind of see right away that the orange line indicating a high percentage for that intuitive interface, which that came up in a lot of our HSU's evaluation in terms of students that gave feedback and faculty. And it's kind of interesting because that's a sort of a personal preference. You know, what does intuitive mean to me when it may mean something different to somebody else? But that was a common theme that came up for us as well. So yeah, very, very interesting. The engagement features and the grading capabilities, pretty common. So I'll make sure I save this, and I'll post this in our community page so people can kind of go back and look at it. It's always interesting to hear what were those reasons. And then the other category, does anybody want to comment in the chat about maybe just the 1 keyword or 2 keywords, and then we'll save that as well, what your other category was. Mobile, okay. Okay. Yeah, so mobile, definitely. Great. Well, thank you so much for answering the poll. So what I'd really like to do is actually get to the meat of our session here and hear from various campuses about what they've been doing in terms of migration. And again, I think there's 6 campuses. I'm not sure if Northridge is ready to share today, but certainly we should have enough time for everybody to get in 5 or 6 minutes. So just a little snippet of some of those things that really kind of popped out for you in terms of migration. And then what I'll have people do is just keep your mic muted if you're not speaking. And if you have questions, JP and I will be monitoring those in the chat. And that way you can, we'll make sure we get to those, and then we'll save some live questions for the end. So how about we start with Jennifer? Would you like to kick us off from San Jose?
Sure. As JP mentioned, we've been using Canvas for about 5 years now. So our migration plan kind of seems like historical topic for us. But regarding what I thought I'd speak about, since it's been a few years, is just how we keep the momentum going. So as I mentioned, we transitioned to Canvas about 5 years ago. So in the fall of 2012, we kind of were doing a little bit of piloting, and then in spring 2013, we gave faculty the option as to which system they would like to use. And then that fall, everybody was using Canvas. When we were assisting people from bringing over their content, we offered a variety of ways. Obviously, a self-service model. If they wanted to bring over their materials, they could also fill out a request form. We would do it for them, or they could walk into our office. And we also held workshops. For going forward, when we have our Canvas course retention policy, we keep courses available to faculty for 2 years. So if you don't have a particular policy yet, that is something that'll need to get approved by your Senate, because it really does impact all the faculty that are using the system. And so we, of course, keep an archive. So in case there's any incompletes or grade challenges, we're able to access, the admins of Canvas can access the content as needed. So that's just another thing you might want to keep in mind. If you're interested in seeing what our policy looks like, I'll put in the link in just a bit for our website, where you can just take a look, and you might find some useful stuff in there that you would like to use as well. But one of the things that we've done to really kind of keep the momentum going on our campus is to highlight with various departments that Canvas isn't just for your course. You can also use it to be connecting with your students outside of that, or with other faculty members. So we have a lot of, we call them custom courses. We have a custom course request form that faculty can fill out. So if everybody in the English department wanted a spot where they can share all their materials and interact with each other, they can do that. We have a really good Comm Central, and I'll put in that link in there. They've been using that for about 5 years. And it's all the communication studies students where they can keep up to date, and the faculty members are in there, but it's also kind of run by the students in that program to share different resources and upcoming activities and campus events and stuff like that. So we have a lot of use for not just an academic type of course, but also a way to create kind of a community. And also we, of course, use, just like probably many of you, a Canvas space for our professional development activities to help model what a good course would appear as, because that's sometimes a challenge if faculty are a little bit more isolated. They don't know. They think what they're doing is great. But then when they start to see other models and examples, they realize there could be a little bit more room for improvement. So we often use the Canvas space to kind of showcase that as well. And one other thing, and I think Yingji Liu from my campus is on this session, she has completed a lot of the different Quality Matters trainings, and she developed a template based upon that that's been put into the Canvas Commons. So at first she created one that would be for fully online instructors here. So it's very detailed, very nicely detailed, and they can search and import it into their course. And right now we have a hybrid. So it's kind of like a modified version of that. And then we'll also have an in-person version but they all align with the Quality Matters standards. So that's just an additional reference point that we use. So any questions for us here at San Jose State?
I know Michael asked about, is the COM community that you described, is that an opt-in community?
That's for the students, and they add everybody in there. If the student doesn't want to be in there, then they could not participate. But it's also a public course, that particular one. So I'll put the link in so you can take a look at it.
Okay.
It's just really meant to help all the students.
Perfect, that'd be great. Thank you, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to hear from Greg over at the California Community College. He's also part of their online education initiative. Greg, are you ready for us?
Thank you. I'd like to speak first about my campus experience because we're in the middle of the transition ourselves. And then I know Dave Stevens is in the call as well. He's also a member of the OEI's advisory committee. So between the two of us, perhaps we might be able to fill in the OEI, that kind of statewide perspective on stuff. I'm the distance education coordinator, and I'm a member of the faculty at Cosumnes River College. And we agreed to adopt Canvas as our LMS in the spring of 16. We started training faculty in the fall of 16. And this calendar year, so either spring or summer or fall, our faculty can choose whether they're using Canvas or our soon-to-be former learning management system. And then in the spring of 18 will be 100% Canvas. And the thing that I shared with Kim that I wanted to share is what I do is mostly, I do lots of things, but mostly what I do is I train other faculty in how to use Canvas. And what I tell them when I start the training, so for example, I started a workshop series yesterday, is having gone through this transition before, because we had a different LMS before our current one, and we did a year-long transition back in 2008, 2009. I realized back then that that those faculty who it is likely or possible, and for some of them likely, to spend way too much time trying to get the new system look and function exactly like the old system. And so what I tell my faculty is I say, hey, take this opportunity right now to decide again and remember why and recommit to why you're using an LMS. It's not a requirement for any of our classes except for our online ones that we use in LMS. And to decide, what are the benefits for your students and what are the benefits for you. Then learn how Canvas can help you do those things, because the systems are all pretty much the same in terms of being able to achieve those particular learning outcomes, professional or teaching outcomes, I should say. And then after you have learned Canvas's ways of doing those things, then worry about transitioning your stuff from the old system. And so in my own experience here, over the course of this calendar year, for the most part, it's validated those suggestions, and for the ones for whom it doesn't validate, I ignore, and so it works pretty well. So anyway, so that was that, and then I'm happy to talk separately about the OEI and the kind of the decision process that we went through to select Canvas and all that, but I don't know what our timing is for all that, because that's a whole separate, to me, a separate topic.
Yeah, we have time to talk about that too, and then maybe Dave can kind of tag team on that when it comes to him too, if there might be some aspects.
Okay, so in case you don't know, the OEI, the Online Education Initiative, was funded by legislation back in 2014, and it is a program designed to speed the completion of transfer curriculum by our students at the community college system, so that they can more quickly get through us and get on to in particular, CSU campuses, and I think the UCs, if they decide to cooperate, can. And so what we did was we are creating a whole kind of ecosystem of services around supporting effective online instruction and learning. And we're testing the hypothesis that well-supported online classes, students in there are going to be more successful than students in online classes that are not so well supported. And so our first focus at the OEI is on the associate degrees for transfer. And we are still right now, this calendar year, or sorry, this academic year that we're beginning right now, is the final year of our pilot. And we have 24 colleges that signed up to be pilot colleges. And we are in the process of setting up. Basically what happens is it makes it really easy for our students, if they're part of the course exchange, what we call it, to take classes at other colleges that are in the course exchange. And we share services, we share best practices, and of course, and probably the most important decision we made was the learning management system that all the colleges participating in the exchange have to use. And we chose Canvas. And we chose Canvas for a lot of the reasons that were mentioned before about the mobile access. They have a relentless focus on having a consistent quality and easy to use experience for students, which we find, which I think is a really good thing. I know that there has been a side benefit from all the freeway flyers that we have in our system. It's great that the faculty who are teaching on multiple campuses now have a single system that they can focus on learning how to use well. And so that decision was made, I think, in the spring of 15 was when we chose Canvas. And so we are, as of our last committee meeting that I heard, I think we have 108 out of 114 of our colleges are all have fully committed to using Canvas. And so we basically have a universal, almost universal adaptation of that. I think those last 6 colleges will likely at some point join in. And so I think that for our students who are going from from campus to campus within our system, it's a great service to them that they have a consistent learning management system that they're using. And then separately, in addition to that, I happen to work for a statewide professional development organization that provides training to faculty in all the campuses and beyond our system. I know a couple of my students are here in this room, which is nice. So we are, what I have learned from that in terms of the other community college faculty, so outside of my college and district, is that they, for the most part, and I think this is a fair comment to say, that they also find using Canvas better, and they like the consistency, and they like the tools and how it uses. You mentioned earlier about intuitive thing, and I know that all intuition is familiarity. So it will all become intuitive to people at some point. Yeah. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, intuitive through the learning curve, if you will. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate that, and I know we'll want to be hearing more about sort of that system level piece that brings that all together. I think that's really cohesive. And then you mentioned the transfer students that transfer into CSU. I mean, I've already been hearing that from transfer students here at Humboldt, even though we're hitting our final migration leg right now. But that they like that it's in terms of transitioning to a university, it's one less thing for them to go, oh, there's this other thing that I have to do. So. Awesome, thank you. So yeah, Brett just mentioned approximately 80% of CSU students are coming from the California Community College transfers. So big numbers, so good collective we have here. Excellent. So Jeannie from Humboldt, are you ready to share?
Sure, thanks, Kim. And you can weigh in of things that I might forget, as well as Julia Jackson, who is also on this call. And what Humboldt has advantage of is our ITS department has a project management department within it that helps us move these big initiatives along that involve ITS resources, of which of course Canvas is one of them. And one of the tools that they use is a DAISY decision model framework to help make sure that as you're doing these big migrations that everybody has a voice and what that looks like, and getting all your stakeholders involved, but helping them to define what their different roles are. And how many people have heard of the DAISY model or used it before? You could just raise your hands. No, nobody? Anybody? So basically, yeah, hi Ernie, great. It was used, I think Intuit developed it as sort of helping to craft these. I might try and share my screen. I have kind of a generic model up that maybe you guys can see. Let me see. Yeah, so here's a generic model that we based our model on. And you have 4 groups of people, approvers, which are the ones for the really high level decisions that have to be made as you move along in your migration. And for us, our provost was basically the owner of the application and one of these high-level approvers. We also had a faculty member. We had our registrar was on that. Am I leaving out Kim? So we tried to get pretty high-level people engaged, and the type of decisions that we would bring them were things that involved shifting of possibly the timeline, things that might involve costs. The registrar was certainly in there because we're touching student data, and there's decisions that were made on how all that would work in integration with our PeopleSoft. The drivers are the people really doing the work. So that was Kim and me and Julia and Sabra, Stacy, who was our project management lead, helping us guide this project through. And we're the ones coordinating, getting input from all these groups. And contributors would be your largest group. So we had a faculty contributor group that would bring, issues back to us as part of this migration. We had students that were involved. We had an accessibility group. We had this group of ones that we knew we would have to, we were coming from a Moodle shop that we had used for 11 years. And we had some courses that we knew were going to have trouble in Canvas because of things they would no longer be able to do. And we recognized that we were going to have to listen to them and try and come up with solutions. And then, and probably others in that contributors groups that I'm missing. And then everybody else is informed, and you can kind of see, and this really helped figure out, everybody knows their role, and everybody has a voice, and that's really important with these big projects. So you don't get people that really are contributors thinking they're approvers or, things like that. So I'm going to stop sharing that. I've posted this model up to the community so you can grab it and kind of look at it. If you want our kind of model, I can throw it up, and I'll just have to kind of probably pull names off. I can do that too. So stop to share.
Yeah, I think just to add on what you were saying, Jeannie, is that, for us, we almost felt like a ground up thing because there were a lot of sort of practices, if you will, if not even just policies, that we took the opportunity, since we were moving from one LMS to another, and it had been roughly 10 years we've been on Moodle, that we took that opportunity to refine or even develop certain practices or protocols. And so there was a lot of foundation work that we did in those first 2 semesters of migration, because again, we wanted to make sure that all these pieces were in place. It wasn't just about moving courses and training folks. So.
I think this is a really important sharing because there are a number of campuses that are basically looking to transition to another LMS. So that discussion is really helpful.
Yeah, and JP made a comment in there that Julia and Jeannie also presented at the CSU Tech Conference. So, yay. Okay, great. Thanks, Jeannie. Appreciate that.
Welcome.
Let's go to Dave Stevens from the Butte Community College.
Good afternoon. I see some friendly faces. So, kind of going off of what Greg shared regarding his own campus's experience, our college, Butte, is one of the 2 principal partners in the OEI, or Online Education Initiative grant. And so we were, again, one of the full 8 launch. There were 8 colleges that kind of migrated first, and there was a lot of focus on taking note of what their problems and issues might be. Got a lot of enhanced support from Instructure, the vendor, and we were very conscientious of the governance that surrounds decisions like this. High involvement from our academic senate, statewide and local senates. We did not transition to keeping one half of the college on one LMS and then moving to another. We went pretty much cold turkey over the course of one summer with a lot of prep and a lot of dialogue, discussion, and representation before that. We were coming from Blackboard Learn, as I imagine many of you are either currently on or were on. And one of the biggest things that we heard from our faculty was the continuity or consistency of the user interface in Canvas was so embraced versus the one-off approach that seems to be prevalent in a lot of the Blackboard products, for example, journals and assignments. But mobile was by far and away one of the biggest things that we were hearing from our students. The Blackboard mobile app came at cost. The Canvas entire product is more or less designed to be consumed in a mobile environment. So that was a huge incentive for us in terms of as a system and as an individual campus. Simple things like the rich content editor. It's TinyMC squared, or the TinyMC text editor in Blackboard. And it's another version of the same product, I believe, in Canvas, but it is vastly superior in terms of a WYSIWYG experience. And that has really done a lot to promote the movement away from Office to PDF files and just moving into web-based content. I firmly believe as a system admin at my campus that a SaaS approach, so software as a service rather than a local hosted deployment of LMS, is pretty much central to success in a project like this. Having as many concurrent faculty that we have teaching at various CCC schools as well as CSUs, and also students. I think probably we're sharing more faculty and students than we probably imagine. So get a lot of feedback from students. We look at our help desk calls over the months, and it's gradually just started going down, down, down. The student experience has been very positive. And there's been a lot more focus on our campus to basic digital literacy instead of focusing on how to shore up what the LMS doesn't do quite so well. That said, I really want to give a shout out here to Instructure's support staff. They are amazing. Available 24/7 at cost, whether you guys go through some kind of negotiated prices for at volume. I can't say enough about their willingness to take the time with faculty and or students and walk people through that. They work with a knowledge base article for each individual campus. They really spend the time to make sure it's done right. We also have the ability to listen in on, they do voice transcription and recordings of their support calls with our students and our faculty. We get to actually listen in and give input as we feel we need to correct things or better improve things. That and their receptiveness overall to improve the product specifically as a system and as an individual college, I've never felt like we have more of a partner as a vendor than with Instructure. So that said, there's a lot more left to do, and we're looking forward to helping the CSUs make this transition if possible, individually or as a system.
Awesome, thank you so much. And you mentioned the WYSIWYG, the MC squared. Is that, I know JP asked a question about what about math and science text. Have you run into that sort of, I know at HSU?
Absolutely, yeah. So we've got some faculty who have found the native tools in the rich content editor to be lacking, and so we are currently evaluating something called WIRIS, which seems to be the prevalent latex editor. Our chemistry and physics staff are really involved in that kind of build up. We look at a lot of LTIs. I'd say, you know, our academic senate subcommittee on technology evaluates 2 to 3 LTIs a month. We have kind of like a crowdsource, you know, request. Can you review this for accessibility compliance? And if we get enough votes for things, we've taken that kind of a page from the Canvas community in itself, and we pull the trigger and see about getting a cost estimate and moving forward.
Yeah. So spoiler alert, we're gonna talk about LTIs and external tools and whatnot for next one. But
yeah.
But that'd be really interesting to hear about, you know, what you're doing in that area too. And I know there's a lot of campuses who probably have questions on that. We use the WIRIS, whatever editor in ours, but I think we have some folks in math that's still not adequate for their needs, so we're kind of still searching around there too, so it'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have a lot of fans here in the chat on the 24/7 support.
Yeah.
Definitely worth the money, I think. So
absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Jason from Sacramento. You ready?
Hi, everyone. Let me start off by first introducing my colleagues, Teresa Palmer and Jennifer Schwedler. We've got a great Canvas team and everybody's working. We're 3 days into our pilot, so yay Canvas. We're also experiencing intermittent connectivity issues. So if we drop out, it's nothing personal. We'll be right back. I guess I'll give the quick narrative of our choosing Canvas and how we've grown into this pilot semester. Over the winter and spring of 2017, we went through an evaluation and looked at 4 different learning management systems, and through our steering committee narrowed it down to 2, which was DTL or D2L and Canvas. And at that point, and here again we're in similar experience as Humboldt. We have great project management helping to steer this. When we narrowed it down to the 2 LMS choices, we opened it up to both faculty and students and gave everybody sandbox experiences. And during that sandbox experience, it was about 6 weeks. We then went back to the faculty and the students, got feedback, and pulled data on what their preferences were. And so when the steering committee was, when it was time to make a decision and take a look, they had the feedback of both the faculty and the students. And what I heard from the steering committee, even though there was strong support on both sides, is that it was pretty clear that both the faculty and the student body wanted to move to Canvas. And so when it was time to make that recommendation, that's the way we chose. This fall, we're taking the opposite approach as to what Dave characterized. We're slowly adopting Canvas over the next.
Oh, I think we might have lost them.
They'll be back. They have that intermittent problem. There he comes.
Let's see.
So Jason, if you can speak a little louder, that would be helpful too.
Sure. And okay, so we're back. Sorry if we drop again. Oh, we still here? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we're gonna take 3 semesters. It's not until spring of 2019 that all of our courses and all of our faculty will be teaching in Canvas. We have a limited pilot that's happening this semester with 100 faculty teaching courses and various sections. We've taken a kind of high touch approach with our course development staff. We've built out a case management system to manage interacting with the faculty in the development of courses, and had pretty good feedback with that process. The spring of 2018, we're going to open the floodgates and let faculty teach as many courses as they like, and it's almost like creating desire. We're getting lots of requests for faculty to be able to get into Canvas right now, but our agreement with the vendor right now is for the limited pilot, so we do anticipate a lot of folks coming to Canvas in the spring. Do you have any points you want to make? I spoke with the team this morning and asked if anybody had any points they wanted me to bring up to the group. Reiterating the communication with the faculty across this whole process during the evaluation, getting access to the sandbox and letting folks really get in, kick the tires, through the process of the pilot to enlist folks to be in the pilot, and over and over again. Folks don't read their emails, so we're trying various approaches to getting the word out, but communication's key. And also to reiterate Dave's point, the Canvas support has been great, and we really encourage folks to be in constant contact with Canvas, especially during the course of the summer as we move from our sandbox into our production instances, getting the LTIs set up and getting them configured correctly. We had a lot of back and forth with the vendor and then testing. And so we were really rapidly able to stand up our instance, and so continually work with Canvas to get up and going.
We have a question about the case management tool. We're using ServiceNow to manage that.
The idea being we could collect a lot of data on the kinds of support that was being done and see it all in one place in anticipation for planning for the spring when we open up the floodgates. So that was one of the reasons we took such a high touch approach, was for the data piece, to know what the pain points were, so we could be proactive moving forward.
And we're using that data to inform our campus-wide training. We're going to have a Canvas week event, and then trainings and informational sessions throughout the semester. So we're taking that information and creating materials campus-wide.
And just to give a little more detail on one of the things Jason mentioned about the evaluation process, when he said we set everybody up with sandbox environments, he literally means everybody. We set up all the faculty, all the students, and sent out emails and invited everybody to do at least basic testing and give us feedback. And I think that was really helpful for our steering committee, because although some of them had strong preferences for both of the LMSs that we narrowed it down to, the feedback from the campus-wide testing, we got about 600 people to test and give us data. That gave us a really clear mandate. So I think it helped with making that decision really easy and getting a lot of buy-in to support the final decision.
And we are self-hosted, currently running Blackboard to answer that question, as we have before.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. If folks have time to answer that in terms of that self-hosting. I know Humboldt we were, but now that we're over into Canvas, we're obviously not. But yeah, it's curious to know about that and thinking about sort of the balance between that, the trade-offs, if any. Well, thank you so much. It's really exciting to hear, just the different variety of kind of where campuses are at, where they've been, and where they've gone. And I think the analytic piece is huge, and we're hoping to do some sort of topic on that as we move forward too in the SIGs. I think a lot of people have been asking. I know we've been asking about it on our campus, and I think it would be really valuable for us to kind of collectively pull that together. So thank you so much. And so then Michael from Channel Islands, you want to bring it home for us?
Sure. And I'm going to tap Jill to come in if I miss anything. But we're 3 days into our opt-in semester. So we did a pilot beforehand with 10 courses that we selected, that we had from a whole diverse range. We had some blended courses, some online, and we just tried to grab a bunch of faculty from a widespread demographic as we could to do our pilot. And we did a survey halfway through that semester just from the students and the faculty to see how things were going. And we didn't have any glaring negatives coming through about Canvas. So we were approaching this project with piloting with the intent of adopting, unless there was, everybody had red flags saying this doesn't work, don't do it. We were moving forward. So that was our kind of preface with everything. And then the biggest part for us was really just communicating and providing as many different avenues of training and just being knowledgeable about this whole transition, because transitioning an LMS on a campus is a huge endeavor. And anytime you throw something like change on that big of a level out to everybody on your campus, we were ready for a widespread panic. I can thankfully say we haven't really experienced it yet, knock on wood. Granted, this is the first semester that we've had it actually kicked into production. But even the numbers at that point from the first week have been pretty crazy. We have about 55% of our faculty have at least one course in Canvas. And I think we have over 650 classes from this semester have been published. So those are a lot higher benchmarks than we were anticipating on hitting. But just to speak a little bit more about what our kind of plan was as far as getting people onboarded, like I said, our communication went out, and I'll share my screen really quick to show you the site that we put together. So we had created very early on, we were very transparent about the CSU evaluation that went into this decision. We created this timeline graphic that we put up on our page, but we also printed out in a couple different sizes and dispersed it around campus. So, there was no question that, yes, this is happening, and here's the different states of how this is going to work. And then also on this page, we had a link. We actually got some of our faculty from the pilot to actually make their courses that they created public. so that other faculty on campus could go see what a Canvas course looked like that wasn't just a sandbox. It was a class that not only was an actual course, but it was an actual course built by faculty at CI, so they could see, you know, how these things could look. And then we linked out to our Getting Started page where we put a lot more kind of in-depth learning resources. So we had a playlist put together where our sadly former colleague, Michelle Perkansky-Brock, put together a playlist where she talked to some of the faculty and got their perspective on what some of the favorite tools that they were using were. We also created a self-paced instructor course that it was open as any faculty on campus could join it, go through. It was a 7-module course that broke down kind of the fundamental pieces of Canvas, from the interface to building assignments, creating pages, and things like that. And that course was built to, if upon completion, you would get a digital badge. It was a Canvas Essentials digital badge, I believe. So we have over 120 faculty that have signed into that course. And then this whole summer, we've just been doing weekly workshops, and we have just a registration on our page where we've been pushing people, say, hey, come in, register for this, come get a hold of. And then we have a link to our Google Docs that actually goes through the entire agenda of what we're covering in those workshops, so they can see what we're going to be covering, but also they have that link to go when they leave the workshop, they can go back to it and they have the step-by-step instructions of what we covered, so that no one's in the dark. So we really tried to grab every different kind of learning style that we could get, because we know some people don't like coming to workshops, some people don't have the time to come to workshops, but they had the 101 course as an option. And then we also have one of our pilot faculty, Allison Perchuk. She was kind enough to volunteer as a peer mentor on campus. So she's a faculty member that we've actually highlighted on our site as someone who's a faculty member that's using it. She was an early adopter, and she's actually signed up to give us a couple workshops from the faculty perspective, highlighting some things that she's learned and things that she likes about using it. So we're really trying to get as much buy-in as possible and promote it as really a good move. Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. I'll let Jill, if you have anything to add in that I missed over.
No, I think you did a great job. I mean, shout out, Butte College helped us talk early on about the transition, and we're not too bitter about OEI stealing Michelle from us, but you know, we'll
just a little.
We'll come back to that. But we're just thrilled. 55% of our faculty have at least one class in Canvas, and there was zero pressure on our end, just information. So that tells us that the word is out, it's spreading. We are thrilled that almost 40% of our classes are on Canvas. We know some campuses don't even have that percentage of their courses using the LMS. So we feel like, you know, it's just going well. And second, the shout out to Canvas support. They've been great. Our faculty are really happy with the chat support and stuff. So yeah, we're good. We're happy.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. And really useful. I think one of the things that kind of resonated with me was the variety of different ways to support faculty as they transition in. And so not everybody's going to come to an in-person workshop. Not everybody's going to do an online, self-paced workshop. I mean, so I think having that variety and then also that your mentor, that's huge. I mean, that's like the faculty voice right out in front, and having somebody that's a go-to, I think is really important and valuable to those that are moving in, that they have somebody kind of a, go-to person. So thank you. Let's see if there's any questions that were coming up in the chat. Does anybody have any questions from any of the campuses that we're sharing? Ernie, did you want to? Sorry, JP.
No, I was just going to say, since again, a lot of time, Kathy and I were getting a lot of interest and conversation about campuses looking to change LMS. Does size make a difference how migration takes place? Campus size, that is.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I almost feel like coming from a small campus that we wanted to do everything, whereas, perhaps if you're coming from a campus that's got 40,000 students, you can't do everything. So maybe there's a different approach. I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in on that.
I can share something about, because we're in a district and the 4 colleges work really closely together, and my college is number 3 out of 4 in terms of size. And I'm also come from a relatively small department, so we have 10,000 full-time equivalent students. We have 1 coordinator, and I have 1 classified person that I work with, and the 2 of us are the professional support for all our faculty. My personal approach to it is I have a very hands-off approach where I tell the faculty, hey, this is the system, I'm here to train. I provide the multiple methods of training, like you mentioned at CSUCI. And another college in my district, they have 2 coordinators full-time like me. They have a 3rd coordinator. They're hiring a coordinator for accessibility. They also have a dean whose sole job is distance ed, and they have a couple of classified staff who work in that. And they have a very directive, I think rigid, but that's because I'm more on the side of freedom. But they have a very directed approach on this is the best way to use an LMS, and we're going to tell you the best way, and that's it. And that's kind of how they do it. And that may come from their size, because they're a much larger campus than we are. I think they have about 30,000 FTE students. And so it may be that they felt the need to be more restrictive in how they rolled it out, because they anticipated getting that much, if they tell everyone how to do it and didn't offer as much opportunity for people to ask questions about, can I do it differently, that they might have found it easier to make that transition.
Yeah, good. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely important. And then Dave said in the chat here that they didn't migrate anything. So Dave, you just started fresh?
We don't have a formal evaluation process on our campus that's been approved by our collective bargaining agreement. So we basically took it upon ourselves, 2-person team, no student staff, to convince our entire faculty base of 600 faculty to take a good, hard, long look at what their content actually was. Did it need refinement? Did it be updated? Did you have hair when you made that video, right? I mean, yeah. But we used 508 compliance kind of as the incentive here in a lot of ways. We provided some case studies where individual faculty were held accountable for the accessibility of their content. And it was a very good decision in retrospect, because faculty took that opportunity very seriously. I actually posted a little bit about this in your CIG community. And what we ended up with is faculty leaving their legacy LMS baggage at the door, looking at their created content, updating videos. It was a good start, and we provided as much hand-holding as we could, but we did not migrate en masse any of our courses from the LMS. We had courses from WebCT that were migrated by Blackboard when they acquired WebCT, and we didn't want to just keep bringing all of that into Canvas.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I envy you for doing that at your campus, because I think there's something to be said about having that opportunity to rethink rethink your teaching and rethink, what the students are learning and all that curriculum.
Governance is key. You get your academic leaders on board with that concept, they'll do the sell for you.
Yeah. Good point. Thanks. And I want to make sure we have time for Ernie, so who's going to the last present, and apologies to Northridge. I wasn't quite sure if you were all in the game or not today, so my bad.
We are all here. There's tons of us here.
I know it's busy time for you, so that was kind of one of the...
That's right. Well, thanks. So yeah, I'll do a quick recap. While the LPS committee was going on at the Chancellor's office, we did our own study here on campus, and the faculty voted that we were going to move to campus. We set it up last fall. Faculty were allowed to, or could teach in it in spring. We had a good uptake there. This summer, it was used as well. Fall that we're in now, that started a few days ago, is our last Moodle and Canvas semester. So the numbers are looking pretty good. As of an hour ago, we have about 2,200 published courses in Canvas, which is about 32% of us, our courses. Over half, so 58% of our faculty have at least one course. 35,500 students have at least one course in Canvas. There are still about 14% of our courses, about 1,000 courses in Moodle that are viewable. So our numbers are inching up. We did migrate 2016 into Moodle and 2017. So spring is done. summer we'll do over the fall, and fall semester classes we'll do over winter break and probably into spring semester. We are going to shut off access to Moodle for faculty, so this semester is a big push on having them save their courses if they want them, or have them migrated separately. So that's where we stand. And there are others. There's instructional designers. Kate, our main Moodle admin, is on here as well, and we have a faculty member, Ken Luna, as well.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, we had sort of 2 semesters to migrate, and then this was our final push for fall, that nobody was going to be teaching in Moodle, or wasn't being used actively for classes. And we did actually, with so much communication, so much push for this, we did have, that I know of, one faculty member that came back this fall and said, what, we're moving to something else? I didn't know, I can't use Moodle anymore. So it's kind of funny. We're like, we know we're going to have at least one person. So I think that's kind of the par for the course. Good, well, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you to everyone to share, and I want to honor your time, but if you have some last minute questions, if you didn't get invited or you didn't go and check out and request an invite to our CanvasCIG community group that's in the Canvas community, I'm going to post here in the chat. You can just send me a quick email and I will get you in right away. It'll send you an invite, and I promise to get you in. I know a couple people have had some bumps in there in terms of being added to the Canvas community if you haven't been in there before. So do send me the email address that you'd like me to add into that community, and I'm happy to do that. Any last minute comments or questions from anybody?
This is a great turnout, folks.
Yeah, definitely. Thrilled to have everybody, and so grateful that all the campuses are willing to share. I think there's so much rich information that we can pull together. And
if there are topics you want Kim to address also as a group, please email to her.
Yes.
We open to suggestions.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons we started out with this group in a Canvas course at the Chancellor's Office level, but then realized that it wasn't really allowing us to kind of reach out and have people join. So those of you that kind of got caught up in that first role, sorry to bump you over then to the community, but we found so many different ways, and I'm still learning about some of these, but where we can connect to the other communities. The California community colleges have a community, but there's so many things out there that we can pull in. One of those things is a discussion forum that's in the community that says, what kind of topics do you want to talk about? What are some of those things that would be important to the collective? So please check that out. There's all kinds of information in there already, but it's only going to be as good as all of us contribute to it. So yeah, thank you so much. Any questions? I'm going to hang here for a few minutes and see if anybody wants to chat or question. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I agree, Dave. Jive does have a steep learning curve. I went through that pain this summer. Thanks, Greg. Jive turkey.
Thanks a lot, Kim.
Oh, yeah.
Great start. Really good start.
Thank you. And I didn't do anything that everybody else did.
But I think there is an energy in the group, and that's the excitement about it, in my view. I can feel the energy.
Yeah, I'm super excited just because I've talked to campuses individually at different folks from different people, and it's great to hear what people are doing and getting ideas about what we can do on our campus.
Jason and Jen, we appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks, Julia.
All right. We'll see you soon, Kim.
Okay, take care. You all have a great day.